Greg F. here today, going to drop a little knowledge with my friend Trey Woodall. Trey is an attorney. He has a great job. Has some income, and he's trying to figure out, like, how do I do this passively? I can't get in the game, or maybe I need to. Don't want to give this up, but don't want to give this opportunity up either. How do I do that? So this is a random thing. Trey and I met randomly. He picked up this old generator in my garage, and we got to talking. So, Trey, tell me a little bit about, like, your background, yourself, whatever we should know.
Yeah, sure. Thank you for having me on. So I just graduated from Belmont University College of Law. Just passed the bar exam, and I'm currently serving as a law clerk for a judge on an appellate court here in Tennessee. I work the 9 to 5. I do a lot of investing in stocks.
Okay.
And real estate is just something that interests me. I like the idea of it, but I don't know exactly how to get into it.
Sure.
And from my perspective, it seems like a very capital intensive investment just to get started in it. But there might be some ways that you can get in without all of the capital.
Sure. Yeah. So there's really two ways you can go about it. You can there's value in two things: the deal and the cash. You either have one or other or both, or one and access to one, or one and access to the other.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, a lot of people will come to me and they'll say, hey, I've got like $100 grand. Like, what am I going to do with it? But before I go there, I always start to say, like, yeah, what is the ultimate goal with investing your funds, your securities, your stocks? Are you trying to find a short-term gain, long-term residual income, a little bit of both, equity? Like, what is the goal ultimately?
For me, it would be a good mix of both. Like I want residual income, long-term growth, but short-term gains are also attractive if there's a way to do it without a lot of money to start up with initially.
Right. So vaguely, what does your financial picture kind of look like now, and where do you kind of want it to go? Like, what's the goal with, obviously, are you working yet, or are you still in school?
I'm working, so I've graduated. I'm working my state job, saving approximately $30,000 a year after taxes.
Okay.
That should increase as time goes on, of course. But for now.
So do you have any other assets besides like $30K cash, basically? Do you have stocks that you could pull from if you needed to?
I have some. I'm just starting to build that up because a lot of it's tied up in a Roth IRA, and so I can't really touch it.
Can't really, yeah. Do you have a solo 401? Are you a W-2 or 1099?
It would be a W-2.
Okay. Will it ever become into a 1099? And the reason why I ask is you can do what they call a solo 401k. Are you familiar with those?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you'd be able to borrow against that, and you don't lose the cash value. A lot of investors will invest their 401k in the properties that I find, basically.
Right. Okay.
Do you own your home, or do you rent right now?
We just bought in Belle Arbor, actually. So.
Right. Congrats. How long ago was that?
Thank you. We bought in September of 2020.
Okay, so you're a few months in, almost 6 months in.
Yeah.
Tell me about your mortgage.
So we did
3% FHA.
We did the Tennessee housing loan. So it's 3.7%, 100% financing.
Do you have to pay any of it back?
If we sell it, yes. I think if we sell it I think if we refinance it, we still have to pay it back. at least within
Okay.
there's like a 10-year recapture tax on it.
Okay. And I'm going
That I
somewhere
was
with this too.
researching,
So
but
what do you think the dollar amount of that is?
um, so I think just a ballpark. I think it's like 10% of the gains or something like that if you sell it and then
Okay.
make money off of it.
Okay.
So I
So,
guess
but if you refinance out of it, you have to
mhm,
pay back, how much
the
is it?
original loan, and I think we have to pay back $10,000 in closing costs that they loaned.
In addition. So, okay, so it'd be,
Yeah,
so you have a 10K fee basically.
yeah,
Um,
essentially to get out of it.
how much do you owe on that? Probably 100% of it, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean we're probably down to like 220,000 left on it.
What do you think? What do we think the house is worth? Which house is it?
It's a townhome.
Okay, it's one of the townhomes.
So
Got it. So
they're
20.
going, I think, between 220 to 230
Yeah,
is what they're selling
sure.
for now around here.
So you got September. So I would assume by your seasoning period, your 1 year be up at September. And
Hmm.
let's pretend, that you owe 220, but let's just pretend that the houses were 230. So there's a 10K right there. If you were to refinance that into the new amount, if you had 20% of that new amount, say 230, which is somewhere, if you brought that 50 to the table and flipped your mortgage, I can't tell if you're frozen or not. If you would turn your mortgage into a first position HELOC, so that 50K would go in, and then you would get the balance back, which would be like what, like 160, and then you would owe the 160. You have the 50 liquid that you would put into it.
Yeah.
So then you would have 160,000 cash now to invest.
Okay. So you can, so we would have to refinance it first, right?
So you would want to wait until your seasoning period is up. Start talking to banks now. Get that ready to go. Get your terms and stuff like that. Because what it is, it'll be on like a variable rate. The
Mm,
fees and everything are pretty low, but a lot of it'll just come out of the initial balance. You can pay it out of that.
right.
230, 160. So basically, yeah. So you'll be able to, you owe interest on the balance only. So basically, your payment would be, just pretend it's 3%. 3%, 160. Not doing quick math. Not good on quick math. So let's just
Yeah.
pretend, 3% of that for the years, 4,800 divided by 12. So your payment would be $400 a month if you had 50 grand in and use the 100% of the balance, right?
Yeah.
Um, so as you get cash and stuff like that, you just stick it into there and it makes your balance less. So that becomes your bank account,
Yeah.
and you have debit card, checkbook, and you just, you could do anything with that. I mean, you could buy an HVAC unit off it. You do whatever. It could be your emergency fund. So if you have an emergency fund or you have savings, you dump it in there and you keep your payment down to nothing. So you keep filling that until it's full with 160K. Now you owe zero, and you have that balance now to use. So you want to put your cash into it to bring that payment down, and you're using the equity. You have to accumulate some cash somehow, either finding, so
Yeah.
that's where we can talk about finding deals, or something like that. Because you almost have to, like, and that's just somebody that would want to do that. You find the deal, and then the equity's in that deal now. You may need
Okay.
one deal to be able to catch up on that HELOC. You know,
So how does how do people make these deals? So from my only experience with real estate, I only know the buy, hold, and rent kind of way of making money from it.
sure.
How are other people doing it?
To awesome question. Well, and the answer to that is it depends. Are
Hmm.
you a passive investor just giving cash? Are you wanting is this your income strategy? Like, okay, so think about people that flip houses.
Yeah.
Really what that is it is investing, but it's not really investing. It's all for the gains. Like you flip a house, you make 50 grand. You flip a house, you make, that's your income. That's your business. That's your, you have crews set up. So in that case, yeah. So like a builder, for instance, they have their GC license. They put the subs together. They make the spread. And what they do is after they make those spreads, they start investing that in assets that'll depreciate and that'll get some cash flow at the same time. So like for someone like you probably don't want to deal with a flip or building houses, and maybe you want it on the side, just depends on your threshold.
Yeah.
Someone like you, so I have a couple people that what they do is they use their HELOCs or they have cash, and I find them like these little 8 to 20 unit like development little things in Clarksville and places like that.
Yeah.
And basically they buy those, because you just need the down payment. So like
Right.
that 160K, that's not your purchase. That's down payment money. You maybe want to use 40 or 50 of that here and there. You don't want to use maybe you get a sweet deal. Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do that. You want to find like, if you found a flip, you could fund the flips too. You don't have to. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll lend their money to deals to do projects. Like you'll give me 40 grand. I use that for material and I pay you back 50, whatever.
Right.
Short-term stuff. If you have a lot of money in the bank to use that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. We're getting there.
So the
Let's
passive
see.
part of it, the rentals and the buy and holds. So obviously there's tons of ways to do that. Single family, multifamily. I tell people maybe start with a single family and then move up from there. But if you don't want to spend a lot of time, the multi is the way to go, because they're professionally managed. You don't have to worry. You don't have to worry about anything. You trust your management. You buy it right, and you just don't do anything. That's best case scenario. Single family, you could always get a property manager, but it's hard to scale on single family. If you think about it, it's like, okay, the 160, I could buy Clarksville. I can buy a $120,000 house. I can put 45 down, which is cool. My payment's gonna be like 400. I'm gonna rent it for 800. That sounds awesome. That's 40, $400 a month, and that could be cool. But I can take like 60 grand and put that toward a $300,000 6 unit or 4 unit. And there's more of a cushion. Like if it's vacant, I still have 4 other rents. Maybe I need just 2 to cover my mortgage and 3 for expenses. Because if you're making money, you're not going to really want to make tons of money at first. You're going to want the opportunity to, but you want to spend money on repairs. And if you're going to hold them, you want to get a depreciation to go against your taxes. You want to build the equity with the rent and the condition to be able to refinance out of it. Like the Burr method, basically, if you were to take that single family, put 40 grand down, say you get it for, 70 grand, it needs 20 of work, right? So you're in it at 90, and out of your pocket cash or hard money, you can get hard money, 12, 15% to do that for you. And then you just get the house rented, buy the house for the 90, get it rented, and your rent is going to kind of be at 1%. If you can rent it for 1,000, hopefully it's going to appraise for 100,000. Now, if the comps for the value show more, then that's much better. And that's what you really want. So maybe you put that, you're in that 90, but it's worth, 140. So you get the appraisal at the 140, and then you get back, 80% of that. So 80% of 140 is like what? 80 grand. So you get 80 grand of your 90 back. You get a new loan, and you still get and now your mortgage, you've got to refinance into permanent debt. So you're going to have better terms. So now you've got the mortgage locked in at 600. You've got all your cash back or whatever, and you're making $200 a month, and you're good. On multifamily, you kind of multiply that by 4 or 6. Can't really depreciate the single family, but the multifamily you can. And the goal with that would be to basically you can do so what I did was I have you take a 4-plex, a duplex, you over, maybe a 2-year period, you just accumulate them slowly, turn them over, rent them, get them managed, bring the value up, get a better cap rate. And then did one big refi, all of them. So refi, you get all your cash back. So say basically get that 90 back, but now you have the 90, and now you can buy another house with the 90 or buy another complex with the 90 now. So that's money's doing its own thing. You got your cash back, and now you do your second deal. And then after time, you get, okay, cool. I've got maybe $1 million in equity here, not equity, but maybe, 200 or 300 in equity, out of 1 million or whatever, and then you take that, but then now you got permanent debt, and 5 years goes by and you're still doing the same thing. The market increases, the rent increases, and boom, you get another $300,000 paycheck out of 1 million. You do that every 5 years, it's already depreciated. If you sell it, you can do a 1031, but like the depreciation, like I probably, for my $250,000, $300,000 buildings, I probably got like, a good 60, 70 grand out of that to come off of my taxes. So you want to balance, like you don't want income, like, if you're flipping houses, income, but you've got to do something with it or it's just going to go to taxes, so you want to make sure that you're like not getting too cash heavy. You want your cash in assets, in the properties or in the HELOC, so you can buy more stuff. And these HELOCs, like, if you were ever to open up a business, like a practice, you'd be able to borrow against your business. Your business becomes an asset. Take that money, and it's like, maybe you find I found $100,000 business line of credit from Wells Fargo for nothing. You can just get stuff like that. Use that as your emergency fund or half of it. And then invest the rest.
Okay. How does the debt to income ratio factor into the HELOC or to just getting more financing? Because I'm approaching kind of the threshold where I might be able to get one property, but I think that would be pushing the limits on the lending criteria.
So there's two ways to go about that. Number one is you can find a commercial lender or somebody that doesn't care that much. You made the rate, because you got to remember, don't think of this as permanent. This is you're getting into it. This is your year. So maybe you get a shitty loan, a bad loan at 8%. It's like, okay, this sucks for the first year, but okay, now it's going to appreciate. I'm going to get out of that now, because once the asset's making its own income, you can show a lease. That's its own job. Like this single family home makes $800 a month. Cool. Well, my mortgage is $600 a month. Cool. They're going to underwrite that and they're going to see that and they're going to get the deal. Now they will look at your experience in global income. Like I've actually had to, if I'm buying in other states, I'll have to write like a resume, a letter, like here's my properties I own, here's my references, my phone numbers, like, because they want to be able to work, it's like, it's way more relationship oriented at that route instead of like going online and filling up, it's way different than buying a house. It's completely different, but it's more aggressive to do that. And they will look at your global income too. But if you can get something that, can just get you into the deal and work your way to refinance it, and talk to the banks about refinancing before you even buy the deal. Make sure your year out is lined up. Like make sure that they run your income and it's like, cool, can I do this? If my income doesn't change, or what do I need to do to be able to get that?
Right.
Start lining that up. You can, your first, because I say year because usually bank seasoning period is a year, but you'll find some with 0 seasoning period. First bank, I did some where I've closed and 10 days later refied, or I've actually done some where we close and refi the same day. You just get the appraisal, you just kind of line it up right. So you may find a bank that will refi out of your townhome right now for $230, but you have to have that 20% down somewhere, somehow.
Right. Okay.
And it'll free up the rest of it. And then you'll owe the payment, but you have to be able to know that you're going to increase income by your job. You have, it's because at first you're going to be paying on the payment. You can't use the money yet. The cash you put into it is what you use. You're just eliminating the debt for your house, and your house becomes your bank.
Okay.
Your mortgage payment goes away. You pay your taxes and insurance by the year and you're done. Pay your, whatever your tax bill comes in, $1,500, you'll save it in the bank. You're going to need it, pay that, get a good insurance policy. And it's all cheaper a little bit because they don't do escrow servicing. So you pay your mortgage, I'm sorry, whatever HOAs, taxes, insurance, and then, as you get cash, like if you say you get a paycheck, right? And you're putting it into it somehow, either through an operating account or directly in. I like the operating account because it keeps track of everything.
Yeah.
That's actually your payment. You don't pay in addition to that. So you may have a $400 a month payment, but if you get a paycheck, it automatically goes in there. Boom, you paid it. So you don't actually make a physical payment, like an additional payment, if money's
Mhm.
going into it. You can take money out of it to pay it. I don't
Right.
recommend it, but if you're like, if you're just like are really down on your luck and you have 40 grand in there, you have to make a $400 payment, you could just transfer it.
Right. Okay. Um, you talked
That
about,
is everyone I know that is around your age that has probably done this for 2 to 3 years that is in your position.
yeah,
Everybody I know does the HELOC on their house as soon as they can.
really.
Yeah, because you immediately get rid of them having the mortgage, and you're less leveraged. I mean, like if the bank crashes, they're gonna come after you last to call your loan,
Mhm.
and it's so much better. Like that freed up. Like when I did it, it freed up everything for me, 100%.
Interesting. It seems, I guess, like I haven't really researched it much, but it seems, I don't know, I guess like on its face risky or something. Like what's the risk profile in doing that?
Dude, that is a wonderful question. So, just like anything, okay, so let's just compare it to what you have now. You have a
Mhm.
30-year mortgage. Your risk factor is not being able to pay your payment for 90 days. You go into a foreclosure. So everybody's 90 days away, right?
Yeah.
Maybe, at the very least. So, if you have 30 years. So if you're going to refinance into something like this, your 30 years could be 5 or 10 years is basically around the year, right?
Okay.
So, what you would do there is because now you got to remember too, just like the rental, you just got your 230, but and by the end of that 5 years, maybe it's worth 250, or maybe it's worth 220. If it's worth less, not the greatest, but at least it's not physical cash you're losing, and that's like a worst case
Mhm.
scenario. Like if the market dips and your house is
Yeah.
worth less and you have to refi, you'll probably have to refi hopefully this with the same bank. If you have good credit history with them, they'll probably refi you because you'll have to go through it all again. But the cool thing is you can refi it at any time. So your maximum is the 5 years, but I look at it every year. Like I did
Yeah.
one last year. My house paid for two. I have the 1918. My house, so I bought it for 250 in 2017. My first HELOC it was 290, so I got 250 back because the down payment, but it wasn't down payment because I already had it in the house. So you only
Yeah.
pay the down payment once. And then I just got it appraised for 312 for my new
Mhm.
HELOC for this year. So I'm not really doing anything, It's just so now it resets. Now this one I think is 10 years. So, I got 10 years to do it. But your risk is really just not being able to refinance at that 10 years and own the balloon payment. But
Mhm.
the world would have to collapse, and I think everybody would be going through that if if anybody did. It would take a lot to get to that point.
Right.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's just a lot. You have more control over it. You're always paying on interest only. So it's for me. It took me a while to kind of wrap my head around it, but now, so it's like I have my credit cards, I have my operating account, my bank accounts, my HELOC. So like you're always like chasing that interest. You want to borrow the credit cards as long as possible, and as at the very end, you want to use your funds in your interest bearing account to pay it. So like,
Right.
paying credit card, like racking up credit cards and points every month and paying them off every month at the last day it's due.
Mhm.
So it's like you're kind of like you're always shifting the interest to making sure that like your balances are always full with whatever's the least interest rate. So if you have three HELOCs, 6%, 5, and 4, you're gonna want to pay that 6 off first. So So you're going to take
Right.
all of your 5 and pay off the 6, and then all of your 4 to pay on your 5, and then just use the interest on the 4. It's kind of like the same thing with credit cards in because your house becomes a credit card. It's a credit line of credit. Credit card is against nothing. This is secured against your house. It's the same thing. It's credit. You could, you know.
Yeah, that makes
I mean,
sense.
even dude, I mean, here's a cool thing too about buying properties. Like you can find these credit cards. If you got good credit, I've got a couple that they give me 30, 50 grand. And that's reno money right there. That's down payment money right there.
Yeah.
Do I want to pay 28% on that? But maybe I do for a month to get me through.
Yeah.
If you have a plan to refi out of it, or maybe a few months before, if you can afford the payment, so you kind of have, you're setting yourself with all these open lines, and that 50K credit card, maybe now that's your emergency fund, and maybe whatever you had in your emergency fund now you can use to do something with.
Right.
So you kind of, set yourself up for that to be able to have more options that way, So then when you do have cash, you're not afraid to use it.
For sure. How you mentioned they're kind of like, investors in real estate at all different levels, like really active, kind of like in it every day, and then some more passive. How can more passive investors work together to get deals they might otherwise not be able to, or do you see any strategy in that?
I do. So there's a lot of people that I know that they have private money. So people like you're like, I got 100 grand. Well, I've got 10 people with 100 grand. You give me your 100 grand, I start paying you because you're my mortgage now. I'm paying you for that. So you can work it out different ways where maybe it's maybe you want the equity at the end and you don't want a payment. A lot of investors will invest to actually lose money because they need to go against something else. So you get a lot of investors that will they want negative returns. So all that money goes into, and so for someone like me, like all that money would go into a bank account that I would have as my money now, my 100 grand. I'm paying you on it. We have a note in terms or whatever we decide. Maybe it's 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. It could be for the project. You can be, something like that. And I mean, that's a great way right there. Just so your money's always working,
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is really finding the deals. Now, a lot of people are like, well, I don't have time to find deals, but you've got real estate on your mind and you're talking to people and everybody wants to be a real estate investor and everybody lives in a house and somebody's going to want to sell something and somebody knows something and you're going to be looking on Zillow because you're interested in what people are paying for stuff. You're going to be looking around and learning the market and you're going to be like, this is interesting. And you're going to email them. I mean, there's ways for people to like spend 20 minutes a day keeping up with certain things to scout properties. And then you're like, cool, Greg, what do you think of this? And then I do all the homework on it. There's a lot, there's value in that. Then I would be like, well, cool. I was like, maybe learn to be able to get with the seller and get the house under contract. So you actually come to me with a contract and then you actually have real equitable interest in the property instead of just like a relationship. You actually have the deal. Like people bring me the deal, I get the deal because I know what I'm doing with the deal. I show them the deal, they get whatever out of it. And I mean, it's a really good way to do it.
Right. So you're saying that maybe instead of investing the cash up front and doing the deal oneself, there's some interest in just having control over the deal through a relationship or a connection or something like that.
And if you called me and said, hey man, this guy's got a 16 unit over here. He's looking to sell, he's behind on a payment or something like that, dude, we'd jump all over that so fast.
Right.
And then I would show you, it depends on like, you may not even care about learning the real estate. If you don't, then don't do it. Like do what you want to do. If you don't care, like a lot of people just give me money. They do. And they just like, I tell them buy this, fund it this day, and they just do it. They don't want to, some people just don't want to deal with it. I have people that I'll take the ownership of the property. someone like you with their solo 401k will buy the property. So now they loan me the money. They don't have to pay the taxes on it. They get whatever the deal is. If it's really mortgage against me, I have full ownership. I can run with that deal. I could steal that property from these people, but
Hmm.
they keep giving me their 401k money. So I started GP. I've got 3 properties in right now with these 2 guys.
Yeah.
I've got another one that's in off White Bridge Road. That's I put $0 in. I have 33% of it. It'll probably land up being about $5 million by the time it's all done. All just by finding the deal and just saying, hey, I've got it now. Do you want in? And I control what happens all the way through it.
Yeah.
These are people that know me, that know I'm not going to run with their properties. I'm not going to put liens on them. And now they're my partners and we work together. That's it. It's really cool when you do stuff like that. I have a lot of people that do. So I have my friend Jason, and him and his cousin. They're like you guys. I mean, he works 60 hours a week, but he finds time to he knows maybe 10 investors, and he just keeps up with those 10 guys. And when they want to sell something, and it's okay for someone like that. They can overpay a little bit. When you're not doing the work, you could take a little bit less of a return. For me, I have to pay everybody. I have taxes. If I was the crew, basically. But for you, you're like, cool. Well, it's not this 80 grand. It's not doing anything anyway. If I can make, 8 to 10% on it, cool. But then I know that that's only 90 days long, and I could find another deal.
Right. Okay.
Is that what you want? Is that helping?
Yeah. What time? Looks like we're at 30. I don't know what you have going on, but
say again.
I think we're at 30 minutes now. I don't know.
Well, yeah. If you have any more questions, do you have any more questions? I just want to make sure you're clear and that you're actually walking away with something.
No, yeah. I mean, it sounds like, just to kind of summarize maybe what you're talking about in terms of the capital investment side of it, it seems like what you're saying is there's different ways to play with the lines of credit and to, especially with like the HELOC and, other kinds of loans, maybe you don't need the cash up front. I don't know,
Another good way for someone like you would be to find your friends and the people in your circle from school and all that have money.
Mm-hmm.
They may have money sent around. I mean, if you know that a circle of your 10 people that everybody makes whatever 300-400 grand a year and nobody's investing in it, maybe you could be like, hey guys, I'm doing this right now. Does anybody want to? Because the more, you're bringing. Now, if you came to me with if I had a property and I came to you and you're bringing the money, there's value in that too. You don't,
right.
So you got the money or the deal. That's the money. I mean, you can even start calling hard money banks and start people that want to already work with you to do a deal, kind of leverage off of them a little bit too. But friends with money, just like all these, is really the way to go. I mean, you need 2 or 3 friends that want to invest 2 or 3 deals a year. I invested with my, in the partnerships, they have to be transparent. I own a building with 2 guys, and everybody has access to everybody's bank account, and you want to be able to know that you can leave a blank check on the table and they can have it and you're not going to have to worry about it.
Right.
I mean, it has to be that way. You figure out the value that maybe you can bring. I mean, you're an attorney. I mean, there's a lot of value in putting securities together to be able to raise private funds, syndications. I mean, attorneys, we pay 50, 60 grand to do that. You can maybe learn a few tools to do with real estate, and those people that come to you would be able to, you can invest with them also.
Right.
Do you have that ability to do that with the way you're structured? I don't know how law works.
I'm not sure. I'd have to look into it, I think.
Yeah, because I mean, what if, this is just me brains just thinking out loud. I mean, I don't know what it's like to be a criminal. So my friend is a criminal attorney, and I should connect you with him. He's a criminal defense attorney, just like you in Clarksville, but he also has a title company. So he closes real estate deals. Maybe he does a couple hundred a year, but he's got that. So he's got deal flow just coming into his desk every day, and he is not out chasing deals. Now I
Yeah.
can call him at any time and be like, dude, I have a deal. And he's like, yes or no. It's like, he knows, he'd be an awesome contact for you.
Mhm.
So maybe there is a way, maybe you can talk to him and just be like, hey, like, how do you do this? Because, putting the securities together, I mean, just doing title work, closing the real estate deals, and doing the securities are the only three things you really need.
Right.
Where you can put together HOA, basic HOA docs and basic mortgages, and then you have that in your knowledge too. It's like, cool, well, now I can do these deals. So
Right.
there's tons of my friend Matt Anderson, he's an attorney at Toro Title. So he's actually started a title company first, and now he's doing he opened up a separate practice also. So I mean, he might be another good contact too. I mean, you might as well just like use the skills in your space and your crew. Like if you're gonna have an assistant, might as well have them do three different things instead of one, kind of start thinking
Right.
yourself through stuff like that. And maybe you can do what you're doing now and do that on the side. I mean, you don't need a physical office, but maybe you still could. You get a processor and you use other title companies, and maybe pay a little bit more and kind of get it through that way. But there's opportunities there's a lot of opportunities. I know a lot of attorneys that do that. The deals come through, the divorces come through, the estate deals, man, all these older people, dude. I mean, yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people that like a lot of attorneys like Chris, and now I'm starting to think of everybody. Nick Howell's another one. They're all attorney. Well, I don't know if he's actually an attorney. I think he just owns a title company. I think Jim's the attorney. But the point is, there's a lot of these people that I can point you direction with too. I would love to hear how that conversation went.
Yeah, that's awesome. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, Matt is awesome. Matt's great, and yeah, I'll definitely connect you with those people.
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome. What what do you think is the best like first deal? Like for somebody my age, like what would be like the ideal investment in real estate in terms of like, I don't know, type of property or area of town in Nashville or, whatever you have on your mind.
The question would be, what do you want to learn?
Mm-hmm.
What aspect do you want to learn? So if you told me I want to be a developer, I'd tell you to find some land. If you said, well, I think I should learn how to be a landlord to see how it goes, I'd say buy a single family home. If you say like, I want to like people all the time, I always want to wholesale. I just want to wholesale. Cool. Do that too.
Yeah.
So because kind of, like what, kind of like, and you don't have to know, like, I want to learn this. Be like, like what is just something to get your wheels moving in that direction,
Right.
And that's what I say, because you want to understand it and you want to enjoy it. You don't want to dread it because it's going to be another job. And you want to be able to make sure that you have the threshold and the time to be able to, and the resources to handle it. You don't want to buy something and 6 months later, you just don't know what to do with it. And you've now rented it and you paid 6 months. You don't want to, you want to plan accordingly. You want to buy right, stuff like that. So it's, I know that's not what you want to hear, but it really does make it, because I do things that I never thought that I would do.
Yeah.
Just because the opportunity came to me. I'm like, okay, because sometimes I'll learn what comes to me, so it's like, well, this is a money making opportunity. I mean, sometimes you just never know. It's like hard to really answer that, because there's so many just different aspects, and we're not even talking about commercial.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. I get it for sure. I mean,
yeah, there's like something that you're like, oh man, that is so cool. How do you do that one thing? Maybe that could be something that you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll do that, or I don't like that, but I like this part of it,
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, that's really it. It's really the best way.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I get it. I think it's a hard question to answer.
It is. I mean, because like, my first deal was, my buddy came to my office. He's like, hey, I have this piece of land. I'm about to close on it. He's like, do you want to split it with me? And I just looked it up and I was like, maybe.
Yeah.
but about a month later I did, and when I closed on it, and that was a piece of land that we hunted down the neighbor, found him, bought the 2, then did a rezone and sold it. I would have never thought that'd be my first deal. You know, I was always looking to do maybe like a single build because I work with a lot of builders and I got a lot of land come my way. Or,
Right.
you know, I thought maybe I, do a single family rental, which I did very soon after. But it just kind of depends on what comes your way, because if you can make money, you can make money.
Yeah.
You just gotta see, is there equity in this deal? What's the value here? What's the value in it now? What could it be? Is it already had its highest and best, or is there a value add? If you got a rundown apartment, there's major value. If you get the nicest one on the block, the least value.
Huh. Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, I think that's all my questions that I have.
Cool.
That's helpful.
Good.
It is.
Well, I'll definitely reach back out to you and send you my friends to give them. I'd love to have you talk to them and just say, I'd love to hear their answers. Let me know. Yeah, man, reach out anytime.
I will. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Thank you.
Yeah.